Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today it's time to take a look ahead and see what I'm going to be reading in May. So I've said a few times before, as a mood reader it's really difficult to have a set in stone TBR, so I normally do what a lot of people refer to as the MBR, the kind of might be read rather than a to be read. And I've kind of gone against that a little bit here because I have set myself 5 books that I'm looking to read in May, and that's at least partially because for some reason I decided to let you guys choose some of the books that I would be reading. And I really appreciate this actually because I was having a difficult time for myself picking which books I would read, and also some of these books I've been looking to read for quite a long time and just for one reason or another just never getting round to them. So I thought by taking myself out of the equation a little bit, we'll see how that goes for me. So I've got 4 books which are essentially chosen from a shortlist, but chosen by you guys, my viewers, but in 4 different categories. And I'll go through those books and let you know kind of how the voting went and which books obviously came out on top. And then the 5th book is an advanced review copy, so that's kind of my locked in title. This one I think is released the 22nd of June, rings a bell, so it's not urgent that I read it in May. I do still have the first couple of weeks in June if I want to read it before the release date, but I do like to be a few weeks at least early if I can, so that I can get my thoughts together and get a review together before the book actually comes out, so I can do my part in helping the launch of the book. So I'll cover that one off first. I've got a digital advanced copy of In the Shadow of Lightning by Brian McClellan. This is the first book in a new series. I believe it's a new series anyway, rather than a standalone. And I've not actually read any of Brian McClellan's work. He's famous, or at least mostly famous, for his Powder Mage books. I'm not actually sure if he's written anything outside of that world, or if In the Shadow of Lightning is his first foray away from the world of the Powder Mage. But either way, I saw this when I put together my tier list video for upcoming fantasy releases, where I judged the covers of those books rather than the actual books themselves, and I really liked the cover for this one. And rather than me going out and searching for it, I actually got an email from the publisher asking me if I wanted to go and download a copy through NetGalley. So that's the first time that's happened for me. There were a few people I was talking to on Discord who got the same email and were able to read the book as kind of a pre-approval for that particular book. So I don't know whether this is a new thing or whether it's just a particular publicist for that book who was on the ball and was looking for people who had read similar titles that they offer. Either way, it's one that I was looking forward to reading, so I went and picked it up, and that's going to be one of my books for this month. So as with many of the books I've read, I will go into it quite blind. I don't like to over spoil myself. I prefer to go in and experience for myself what the book is about. So we've got something called God Glass here, which is listed as the power which keeps civilization turning essentially, and God Glass is running out. So it sounds like there's quite a bit of politicking here, as we've got these sort of big powerful families who are vying for control of the last little scraps of God Glass that are left to them. And then you've got the son of one of the ruling families who is in, I think, a self-imposed exile, and he returns to find himself in the middle of this basically and trying to gain or keep power for his family, I guess. There's other things going on in there. I think there's a bit of a murder mystery potentially, judging by some of the wording in the synopsis. But overall, this sounds like a really interesting story. There's apparently some quite unique magic in here, which I'm always up for. So I'm hoping that this is going to be a really good one, and I'm going to find myself a new author who I can really enjoy. So then the other 4 books that I'm going to read are the ones that are chosen by my viewers through this voting. And I said earlier that I split these up into 4 categories. There was no real reason for that. I just decided that it would be nice to have a few different selections on the table, but I didn't just want kind of 4 or 5 main books drowning out all the others, so I did want to split the field a little bit in that sense. So with these, I was actually quite pleased with the amount of votes that some of these books got. There were over 70 for some of these categories. The self-published category, which I might expect, I guess, was the one that had the fewest overall votes. But the individual titles that were in each of these categories, generally speaking, they were all really popular. Almost all of them got a good, healthy number of votes. So it's good to see that the books that I'm interested in reading are also the books that you guys are interested in me reading and reviewing so that you can find out what my thoughts are on them. We'll start off with that self-published category, and the titles that I had in this one were Burn Red Skies, The Hellborn King, Winds of Strife, Beckoning at the Gate, and Army of the Cursed. And 4 of these titles got into the double figures in terms of the voting. It was quite close for 3 of them, but there was a clear winner, which was Winds of Strife. So that's my first pick from these polls that I'm going to be reading in May. I have heard from a few people that the audio for Winds of Strife is really, really good. So I think that's the path I'm going to go down on this one. But I've been looking forward to Winds of Strife for quite a while. This is a book that's dealing with a character who is a witch hunter, and I'm not quite sure he either joined the witch hunters specifically to kind of destroy this group from the inside, or he's someone who became a witch hunter and has since become disillusioned with kind of the role and the culture around this, and he's now seen an opportunity to destroy them from inside. Either way, that's where we are, this character who is looking to bring down this caste of witch hunters and completely change the culture and society of this world. And it sounds like there's going to be kind of a lot of internal strife for this particular character as he comes to terms with what he's doing, and can he essentially kill a king and start a revolution. So as I say, this is one that's been on my list for quite a while. I've had some good friends who have read this and really, really liked it, so I'm hoping that I'm going to be on the same page that they were. For the next 3 categories, I've got some really popular choices, and I'm going to just go through them in the order that I've randomly stacked the books down to the side of me. So the first of those is sci-fi, and with this one we had a couple of titles that didn't do so well in the polling, and then 2 that were almost neck and neck for much of the time that the polling was open. So I ended up with just 2 votes between them. Shards of Earth by Adrian Tchaikovsky got 20 votes, and A Memory Called Empire by Arkady Martin got 22. Although I will note that there was somebody, because I did take a note to make sure there were no duplicates, there was somebody who voted for both of these, one in Discord and one on YouTube. So even if you take out those erroneous votes or just one of them, it would still be at least a 1-point win for A Memory Called Empire. So this is book 1 in the Texcalan duology. There's a lot of politics in this one. Again, I've not read too much into it. I did include this one in my, I think it was a series that I'm looking forward to video that I did some months back, where I read the entire blurb from the back and stumbled over so much of it because there's a number of big chunky words that didn't naturally roll off my tongue. So I'll save you from that just at the moment. But again, I've heard a few people who've read this and really enjoyed it, and it's one that I'm looking forward to as I expand the kind of backlist of sci-fi titles that I've read. Next up we have the TBR Veteran, so titles that have been on my list for a long time. I still want to read them all, I'm really excited to read them all, and yet I just never seem to get to these ones for whatever reason. So the titles that we had in this one were Dragon Mage, The Wolf of Oranyaro, The Forgetting Moon, Tiger and the Wolf, and Kings of the World. And of these ones, Dragon Mage and The Forgetting Moon did really well. They got 16 and 18 votes respectively, but with 23 votes, it's Kings of the World that I'm going to be reading next month. Lots of people, whenever I've mentioned this one as kind of one of my options or something that I'm considering at some point in the future, so many people talk about this book and they all rave about it and tell me that I need to read it. This was a gift from a good friend Nina back at Christmas actually, and it's one that she's excited for me to read as well. I'm excited for it, so why haven't I read it yet? I've got no answer to that. It's just one that I've not got around to. I did read the first chapter of it in a first chapter reads many months ago, and I ended up reading from that selection We Lie With Death by Devin Madsen instead. This one though I thought was okay. I had no problems with it. I thought that I could get along with the writing style and the story, so now's the time for me to go along and find out. And that brings me to the fourth category, which was series continuations. All of these happen to be, just by coincidence rather than design, all happen to be book 2 in series that I've started and just not got along to. So with this list, A Fool's Hope by Mike Shackle is the only one where I read book 1, what I would call recently. I read We Are the Dead just a couple of months ago and really enjoyed it. Actually, I had a good time with that one. We Lie with Death as book 2 of A Reborn Empire. I read We Ride the Storm towards the end of last year, and then the same with the First Law standalones by Joe Abercrombie. I read Best Served Cold around September, October, I think it was. So I've got The Heroes as the second of those standalone books on the list as well. That one did quite well. It got 11 votes. Caliban's War as book 2 of The Expanse was the other one in that series. But the one that was the outright runner, as I pretty much expected it to be, got 29 votes. And that was Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. So I'm going to finally be going back to the Stormlight Archive. Now, this is the split volume, so I think what I'm going to do with this one is read the first one, which is still, I think, about 600 pages, nearly 650 pages. I'll read this one potentially towards the second half of the month, and then depending on how I get along with that, I might just go straight into the second volume and finish Words of Radiance as the actual book itself, rather than these split volumes. So we'll see how that goes anyway. But again, as with all of the books that were on this list, I've really been looking forward to getting to them, but I just haven't yet. So I'm really happy actually with the choices that my viewers have made here. So that's my 5-book kind of short list, as opposed to short list, for May. Let me know in the comments down below what you're planning to read. What do you think of the choices that, well, ultimately you guys made for the most part? I hope that you're looking forward to me reading these and to hearing my thoughts on these books once I've done so. Do the usual liking and subscribing stuff below the video whilst you're there. In the description box underneath the video as well, as usual, you can find links to all of my social media and support the channel pages. I'll hopefully see you again in another video soon, but until then, as always, take care of yourselves, read some good books. Bye for now.